Hello everyone. Well, I'm trying to sort this out again. Now this is like a secondary video to the one that was done on the 9th. I tried to do one before, but it was a bit windy and you couldn't hear me and all that sort of stuff. We had to try and watch it to see. Now, when I said I'd end up having restaurants and all that stuff that was would be helping the income, the investments, that sort of stuff. Well, the investments would get started off in the first month. We'd end up having to check to see exactly how much would make. We'd be able to get little £1 million projects going after that. But we'd end up having to work out exactly how much money we could take away from the entirety of the investments as a whole, because them 7 companies would have to work in tandem right at the beginning, because we wouldn't have a great deal of cash to splurge around, even though yes, we would have spent about 147 billion on restaurants and getting them set up, but that would take about 3 months. So that would be money spent over 3 months, even though we'll be raising it in the 1 full month. It would take another 3 months after that to get it guaranteed built. We'd end up having the taxi firms, which would be going across all 7 companies. Now that would be bringing in money, primarily from the first day it was all set up, whenever that would be, because we'd have to wait for the councils to sort things out and give the go-ahead for the cars and the insurance and everything else, and the drivers, blah blah blah. Now that would give roughly about 700 jobs. The restaurants would approximately give about 50,000 jobs or more, but you'd have to be qualified in the certain positions you would have to be for a restaurant and for a taxi driver. Other investment ideas, some would be outrageous, which I quite agree that some people wouldn't understand exactly what that meant, because I would have to try and explain it over a period of time. Now, when we're doing all these different interviews for taxi drivers and people going in restaurants, the taxi driving would only be in one particular area for that particular moment in time. Now, whereas the restaurants would be dotted all over the country, all over the United Kingdom, all over Northern Ireland, to bring in revenue. Not just for me, but for the different parts of every country. England, Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland. And then we'd end up having other differences. Eventually we'd end up getting the garden centres up and going, within the pre-organisational time of about 4 to 5 months, when we actually had them farms in hand. We would end up having to recruit a number of people, not just to work in them farms, but we would also have to have them to operate in them farms. So basically we'd end up having sheds, a big massive shed, a big massive greenhouse, a big massive bit of land to put all the plants and stuff in when they got to a certain height, and then we'd end up having to work out on what would be happening as far as the winter would be concerned, because we'd end up having to do that for that as well. We're getting a little bit of company in here now, so you know, that would be another part of the scenario. We'd end up having different companies. I'd be able to tell you what the different other things would be going on eventually, but I'm not applicable to say just yet, because we haven't got the first month ready. We haven't got things going yet, so I can't actually physically say what's going to be happening. So because that wouldn't be appropriate either. We'd end up telling you what we can do in the beginning, in the first month or two, to get things started, because we'd have to generate some cash. We'd have to pay people's wages, you know. We'd end up having about 6.6 billion within the restaurant alone to pay out for wages. We'd end up having a good 2.1 million in taxi wages, because we would not work people like the taxi drivers are right now. You know, if someone was getting paid £15 per hour for being a taxi driver, you know, because they get peanuts right now. They literally get absolutely peanuts, and I think they get below the minimum wage anyway, which is barely excusable in this modern day UK. You know, it was bad enough in the EU. I would say things have improved slightly since we left the block, but not everything has. I just relocated from where I was to where I am, just because I wanted to let them owners with the dogs run around. Yeah, so in the setting at the end of the first month, not only would the church in money come, it would also be there to make sure that the church was secured in getting it started to be built. So that could take anywhere between 2 to 3 days to get that money, which is going to be quite a feat. And we are going to end up having it in such a way where no matter what we do, we're going to have a grand opening of this church, and everybody would be welcome from around the world. What a person would have to do would be just get onto the website, say I want to come, select when they want to come, That's how easy it's going to be. And then, provided we can actually get the, if we haven't got the planes to bring the people in ourselves, we'd possibly pay for their flight. Would pay for their flight for them to fly over. So that's what the church would. That's what the church and we would be doing from other areas. Some people don't actually know what I mean by that, but I do. Unfortunately, I'm about the only person who knows what's going to be happening. So, and I'm trying to explain in the broadest mind possible what would happen. So technically we'd end up having that sorted out. We'd end up having other things going on. We'd end up having the investments, we'd end up having the church, we'd end up having hopefully the taxi firm going at the time. And then we'd hopefully end up hopefully end up having it where the restaurant would be getting built, or should I say getting started. Sorry, I'm just recording me. I'm just recording me. I wouldn't be recording anybody else. Sorry about that. Just folk wanting to know what I was doing. But anyways, I haven't got time to record other people because that's not my idea. You know, people are allowed to do what they do and what, even if they're bloody kids, but so as far as I'm concerned, doing investments and all that carry on would be the main thing. And eventually over a year, certain businesses would be hopefully up and run. The church itself could take up to 6 months to build because that's the time limit I would be giving them. Nobody needs to know that, but I would give them 6 months to build a church because that's all the time I would have for that church to be built. I wouldn't have any longer. And yeah, so basically as far as I'm concerned, I'd end up having different things to go on, different things to do, and I would end up having to look at the investments on exactly how much money had been done over the whole entire company. Just someone passing us there, so I had to stop the video and restart again. So yeah, there will be an awful lot of other stuff. The 100 billion I'll put out in the video on the 9th, that would also be only allocated to people who was unemployed. Now I believe that people who have been unemployed and everybody else has been getting help. I'm not pulling anybody down here by no means, but the OAPs get an awful lot of help from the government, and basically I'm going to try and help those who would be unemployed, because be honest, people need to get off drugs, people need to lower their alcohol level, because some people go way over the top to a point of violence and all that carry on. And you know, over my Christian life experience, I have seen things that nobody should see, because technically that wasn't the way the world was supposed to be created, where man just does what he wants. I know I'm going to get slagged off for that, but so what? You know, if the truth hurts. But you know, people who are alcoholic dependent need to stop and think, what damage are they doing? I've seen it where someone was drinking quite regularly, and when me and my wife actually got to see her, she was practically dead. She was walking in a grave primarily at that time, and a matter of weeks later she died. And we tried everything. Unfortunately, we had to try and take steps a little further, but unfortunately she died.